Shalom, Israel. Elder Stephen here again, and I got a class for you. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Sabbath of rest. The last time we met, we were discussing keeping the Sabbath holy and primarily how it's taught in a lot of these Israelite camps. The Most High told us in Genesis 2 that he rested on the Sabbath day and that we must keep the law to rest on the Sabbath as well. It is taught that means you must not work a job on the Sabbath, that you must not cook on the Sabbath, you must not buy and sell on the Sabbath, and you must meet weekly. We show you that the words were actually saying the Most High rested from his work on the Sabbath, and we must rest from his work on the Sabbath as well. We showed you that spiritually he was telling you not to preach on the Sabbath. Some of you might find this shocking because you have been doing this for years. We gave you the precepts and used scriptures showing you this means the opposite of what is taught. Now that we've showed you what is incorrect about how to keep the Sabbath holy, we will today explain to you what you need to do to keep the Sabbath holy. Okay, this misunderstanding falls on the meaning of one word in particular. That word is rest. You also have the misunderstanding about what should be taught on the Sabbath. The Most High says he is only accepting spiritual offerings. He sent his son, who in John 1 is called the Word, and he showed us how to interpret the Bible according to the Most High's will. Matthew 13 tells us to understand the parables. The parables are Christ's doctrine. In a previous class about the Sabbath, the precepts are telling the prophets not to teach the carnal doctrine on the Sabbath. By the end of this class, you will see you have to follow the example of Christ and what he did on the Sabbath. All right, so let's get started. We're going to go to Matthew 12, and we're going to get an example of what Christ did on the Sabbath. Now, the stuff I'm teaching you is not going to do you any good if you understand carnally. If you understand carnally, you probably going to think I'm the devil and I'm teaching some kind of heresy that the devil put in my mind. The Most High is not carnal. He's spiritual. He put those words in there where they have an interpretation that's carnal and an interpretation that is spiritual. If you are following the carnal interpretation, you are not going to understand what I'm saying. But I'm going to read this. We're going to start at Matthew 12, verse 1. I'm going to read it carnally. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you what it means spiritually. All right. So let's get it. Matthew 12, verse 1. At that time, Jesus went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were an hungered, and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do on the Sabbath day. But he said unto them, Have ye not read what David did when he was an hungered, and they that were with him, how he entered into the house of God, and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests? Or have ye not read in the law, how that on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath, and are blameless? But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. But if you had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, ye would not have condemned the guiltless. The Son of Man is Lord even on the Sabbath day. Okay, that's a whole lot of stuff that came out. with those few verses. All right. So we're going to go back and we're going to give you better understanding. The way it's taught is saying, when he's talking, it's saying he was in the corn on the Sabbath day and his disciples was picking and eating corn. And the Pharisees came up and said, hey, your disciples, they are not keeping the Sabbath holy. They breaking the law. So it's taught that means that if you work, do any kind of work, like they were working in their field, plucking that corn and all of that. They're saying that if you do any kind of work, then that means you violating the law, just like they teach it today, right? That's what the Pharisees were saying. All right. That's how it's taught. Right. And then it says Christ starts telling them about how David went and got the showbread, on the Sabbath day. And then it says about the Levites, how they profane the Sabbath because they make the bread, the showbread, on the Sabbath day. So he's telling them those are exceptions and so forth. At least that's how it's being taught. And then it says that he says something to the effect that he's the Lord of the Sabbath. So he got an excuse because he's the Lord. Right. So, and they just say, except that he's the Lord and he can do what he wants. But you still can't work on the Sabbath. You can come out here and work for us teaching these people so we can make this money. But, that's the only way you can keep it holy. All right. So now we're going to go back and we're going to read it again. Now we're going to put some spiritual eyes on it. Those words mean something different whenever you're talking spiritually. So let's start. At that time, Jesus went on the Sabbath. So it's talking about the Sabbath day through the corn. So when it's talking about he going through the corn, right, it's telling you corn is food, right? So Christ is teaching, right? And his disciples were in hunger. They wanted to get the understanding and begin to pluck the ears and eyes is talking about understanding. OK, ears and eyes is talking about understanding. When you have the ability to see and you have the ability to hear. That's why I say he that have eyes, let him see. He that have ears, let him hear. It's talking about understanding. OK, they began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat. So they're learning from Christ. He's out there teaching. All right. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, behold, thy disciples do that which is unlawful to do on the Sabbath day. Christ teaching them a doctrine that ain't supposed to be taught according to them. And they shouldn't be listening to Christ's doctrine. All right. But he said unto them, have you not read that what David did when he was in hunger? When David needed some understanding, hunger means he need understanding. He desires some understanding. He wants to learn. And they that were with him, so all of the people that was with David as well, how he entered into the house of God, the church, and did eat, learn the showbread. Showbread is understanding. Matthew 4:4 tells you that bread means word. Okay. So that means David got the understanding. He got the understanding from the priests. It ain't talking about him taking no bread. It's talking about him getting understanding when he went to see those priests. These people teaching you wrong. They don't understand what it means spiritually. So Christ is letting them know, just like David got understanding on the Sabbath, he can give those people understanding. Now, they don't understand what he's saying, right? Then it says, or have you not read in the law how that on the Sabbath day, the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless because they make that bread. But making bread mean they get the doctrine together. They're studying to make sure that they teach the people right. That's how they make the bread. They have the understanding. The bread is the understanding. They make bread. I know y'all see that. Okay, that's what it means spiritually. But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. So he's telling you what he teaching is greater than what they was teaching in that church. Just like today, his doctrine supersedes the doctrine of these carnal churches. Then he asked them a question. He said, but if ye had known what this meaneth. So he's about to ask them a question. If you know what this means, he says, I will have mercy and not sacrifice. That's the question. Do you know what that means? He's asking them, do you know what I will have mercy and not sacrifice? Mercy is spiritual. Sacrifice is carnal. He's making a distinction of what the Most High will accept. He will accept mercy, which is spiritual, and not sacrifice, which is carnal. Okay? He said, ye would not have condemned the guiltless. So he's telling them, I'm guiltless because you're ignorant to what the scriptures is saying. He's telling you the spiritual understanding. That's the parable of this whole thing. They don't see it. The Pharisees didn't see it, and the preachers of the day don't see it. And that's why the Most High don't want them teaching on the Sabbath, because he hallowed the Sabbath. The Sabbath is the day. He don't want to hear that carnal foolishness. All right. Then he says, for the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. The Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. So what he's saying, the Son of Man, the spiritual doctrine, because that's the doctrine he's got, is Lord or ruler over the Sabbath day. He's saying you have to teach the spiritual commandments on the Sabbath day. That's what he's saying. Jesus just told you that the only thing allowed to be taught on the Sabbath day is the spiritual law, not the carnal manner that is Moses' interpretation, but Christ's doctrine. That's what that means. So if we keep reading, it tells us that Christ then goes to the synagogue and they ask him if it's lawful to heal a man's withered hand on the Sabbath. Right? Now, I know all of you believe Christ used magical supernatural powers to make the man's hand normal. That is a Jewish fable. We have told you what a lot of these words mean spiritually in previous videos. That is a Jewish fable. Okay? A lot of this stuff that you are all believing is not true. You've been taught it over and over for years after years after years. And you believe there's supernatural powers that Christ had. That's not what this is saying. And if you actually read what it's saying and you know what these words mean, you'll be able to get the understanding. All right. So now we've already told you in previous videos what these words mean. So I'm not going to go and try and pull the precepts for all these words. I'm going to tell you what they mean. You can watch some of my videos from the past, and if you've been following along, you already have what these words mean. But if not, go back and watch them videos. We got to get to the point. All right. I'm going to explain what they mean as I read these verses. All right. Some of you will get it and others will not. The belief in the supernatural is a stumbling block to learning. I'll say that again. The belief in the supernatural is a stumbling block to learning. You can't get the understanding of what the book is saying if you believe in a lot of supernatural foolishness. Okay? You have to decipher what it means and get the proper understanding. You got to do the work. If it was that easy, everybody would get it. But the Most High say only a remnant gonna get it. All right. Some of y'all gonna get it. The rest of y'all gonna believe we sitting there cursing Christ and all that other stuff when that ain't what we doing. We telling you what the words mean. And y'all can't listen and understand what these words mean. But y'all don't realize it ain't a whole bunch of time to go and cuddle you and make you understand this thing. We at the end. So y'all need to get it. So let me go ahead and read this thing. And you're going to get the understanding. I'm sure you're going to get it. I'm going to explain it to you so that you get it. I don't want to sound like I'm impatient, but I know it's very important that you get this. So listen closely. So we're going to keep reading. We're going to start at verse 9. So it says, this is about him going into that synagogue. And when he was departed thence, he went into their synagogue. And behold, there was a man which had his hand withered. And they asked him, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days? That they might accuse him. All right. So it's talking about what they're trying to do, right? To catch Christ in his words. Withered hand is the man's belief. Works of the hand means support your belief. All right. The hand is a doctrine. All right. That's what he believes in. So when it's talking about that man got a withered hand, it's talking about this man's belief. It's about his doctrine. All right. His doctrine is dried up. All right. Heal him with Christ's doctrine. That's what it's saying. Christ's about to heal him with his doctrine. Right. They want to accuse Christ of teaching a different doctrine on the Sabbath. That's what they're trying to do. Just like these people go out here on the streets and they telling you, oh, you're not following the law, because they want to show you that their law is superior. But just like the Pharisees in the days of old, their Christ is inferior to the doctrine that I'm teaching you right now. I am not Christ. But the Most High blessed us with that doctrine that he said we would have in the last day. This Jerusalem I'm teaching you. If you want to learn it, good. If you don't, good. We're going to teach it to you according to what the Most High gave it to us. You can either hear it or forbear it. So let's go to the next verse. It says, And he said unto them, What man shall there be among you that shall have one sheep, and if it fall into the pit on the Sabbath day, this talking about the Sabbath day, will he not lay hold on it and lift it out? So Christ says, who among you that had a sheep, a righteous follower, because that's what a sheep is, a righteous follower, that fell into a pit. A pit is a carnal church. Any type of dwelling is talking about congregations and churches, okay? Houses, temples, mansions, any type of dwelling, cave, den, pit. Those all mean churches. He talking about these carnal churches. So he says, which one of you that had a righteous follower, which the sheep is, fell into the pit, or they got called away with this foolish doctrine, a foolish carnal doctrine on the Sabbath, wouldn't lay hold, mean with his hands, his doctrine, and lift him out. Lift that man out of that wickedness of that church, that carnal church, with his doctrine. That's what he just said. All right. That's what those words mean. All right. Let's go to the next verse. Verse 12. How much then is a man better than a sheep? So he comparing a man to a sheep. He letting you know the sheep talking about men. All right. Wherefore it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath day. Christ says the sheep represents a man, and it's lawful to do well, meaning preach the spiritual law on the Sabbath. That's what he just said in verse 12. Verse 13. Then said he to the man, Stretch forth thine hand. And he stretched it forth, and it was restored whole, like as the other. That's telling you, that verse is saying, then Christ said, Stretch forth thy hand. That means, let me hear your doctrine. His hand is his doctrine. Stretch forth your hand. Let me hear your doctrine. That's the translation spiritually of what it's saying. And he restored his hand, right? Made it whole. That means he corrected his belief or his doctrine. That's what that means. So basically what Christ is telling you, it's okay to heal someone's doctrine with his doctrine on the Sabbath. So he's telling you what he did. What he was doing on the Sabbath day, he was healing people with his doctrine. He was correcting their old beliefs and giving them better understanding through the spiritual doctrine. That's what he was doing. That's as simple as that. That's what he was doing. All right. So let's keep going. Christ told you his doctrine would be the only doctrine taught on the Sabbath day in another way. Remember, we discussed bearing burdens on the Sabbath in that last video I did. We defined burdens to mean the word or doctrine. That's the spiritual definition for the word burden. Word or doctrine. We use Malachi 1:1 to show you what burden means. Okay, burden means the word. There's another one in Habakkuk. Let me go to that one. Habakkuk 1:1. The burden which Habakkuk the prophet did see. He saw the word. When you say see, it's talking about his word. Okay. So the burden is the word. The burden means the word. All right. So now in Jeremiah 17, you have a law that was given about burdens. All right. It's going to be Jeremiah 17, and we're going to start at verse 19. Thus said the Lord unto me, go and stand in the gate of the children of the people, whereby the kings of Judah come in, and by the which they go out, and in all the gates of Jerusalem, and say unto them, hear ye the word of the Lord, ye kings of Judah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, that enter in by these gates. Thus saith the Lord, take heed to yourselves, and bear no burden on the Sabbath day, nor bring it in by the gates of Jerusalem. Neither carry forth a burden out of your houses on the Sabbath day, neither do ye any work, but hallow ye the Sabbath days as I commanded your fathers. All right. So it's a little bit of spiritual going on in there, but I think y'all get the gist. It's saying don't bear any burdens. And they are teaching that means you can't work. But I just showed you the spiritual word for burden is doctrine. Malachi 1:1 tells you that. Habakkuk 1:1 tells you that. Burden means word. Burden means doctrine. So he's saying don't bear any burdens of the preaching that's being done on the Sabbath day. That's what he's talking about. All right. You got to remember in these verses, when he's talking about kings, remember the nation of Israel is a nation of kings and priests. Kings and priests, they mean the same thing. When the Bible's talking about kings, it's talking about the priests. Don't get caught up in some monarch sitting at a throne. The kings are the head priests. But a king means priest. That's what the spiritual word for king is. A teacher. That's what a king means. All right, so let's read it again. Thus says the Lord unto me, go and stand at the gate of the children of the people. So the gates, that's where all of the elders are. That's where the understanding is. All right. Whereby the kings, teachers of Judah come in, and by the which they go out. And in the gates of Jerusalem. So that's where all of the understanding is in Jerusalem. That's the churches. That's where the congregations are. That's where the leaders of the congregation are. And say unto them, unto those kings, unto them priests, hear ye the word of the Lord, ye kings of Judah, teachers, and all Judah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the doctrine. All right. That enter by these gates. So he's telling you, be particular about his doctrine. He's telling you that. Thus saith the Lord, take heed to yourselves and bear no burden, word, doctrine on the Sabbath day. They talking about their own word. The stuff that they teaching now, just like they was teaching back then, a bunch of foolishness to keep them people in line. That's what they doing in a lot of these Israelite camps, a lot of these Christian churches, and all these other religious organizations. They keeping them people in order because they got them scared with that doctrine that they teaching them. Plus they getting paid for it. All right. Neither carry forth a burden out of your houses on the Sabbath day. He's saying don't go out there teaching that foolishness on the streets. Neither do ye any work. He talking about their own work because Most High told them to take a day off from teaching that foolishness. But hallow the Sabbath day as I commanded your fathers. He's saying stop teaching that foolishness because they was teaching carnal doctrines just like they doing today. You're going to get it at the end.